The morning was freezing in the Montana mountains, with a thick fog covering the fields like a blanket of silence. In the small village of Denton, where everyone knew each other by name and time seemed to move more slowly, another weekly cattle auction was taking place. Among the familiar faces was Walter Hayes, a man who carried not only the weight of age on his shoulders, but also the burden of a past he preferred to forget. Walter didn't plan to buy anything that day. He was there out of habit, maybe nostalgia. Ever since he lost his wife 3 years earlier, he rarely spoke to anyone. His routine revolved around the farm, strong coffee, and silence. But that day, his eyes were drawn to something unusual. In the farthest pen, a frail bull with a dull gaze and a body marked by scars stood motionless, as if it had already given up on life. An employee quietly whispered to another, "That one should already be on the slaughter truck. I don't even know why they brought it." The sign read, "Lot 79, no family history, compromised health, unproductive animal, destination, disposal." And for some reason, Walter couldn't look away. He remembered his son, Ethan, who died years ago in a truck accident. He had the same expression, like he was waiting for someone to notice him before it was too late. When the auctioneer called out Lot 79, silence fell. Walter raised his hand. $500. The auctioneer paused. "Mr. Hayes, you do know that." "I know. That's my bid." The gavel came down, and the bull got a second chance. Back at the farm, the bull received a new name, Luther, in honor of an old herding dog Walter had in his youth. He was placed in a small side pen, separated from the other animals, with forage, clean water, and blankets on cold nights. Walter slowly began to talk to him. Not like one speaks to an animal, but like someone who listens. "Luther, if you survive, it'll be out of stubbornness, or a miracle." Little by little, the bull began to stand, to eat, to walk. 2 weeks later, Walter caught him nudging a bucket with his snout, as if asking for more water. Another time, he stopped a calf from getting caught in the barbed wire. Over time, he started herding the cattle at the right times, without ever being trained. Walter began writing down the animals' reactions in a notebook. Today Luther mooed when he heard the horn. Then he led the calves to the barn before the rain. Unbelievable. Intrigued, Walter called Dr. Mason Holloway, a retired veterinarian who had once worked at a government agricultural research center. After some exams and behavioral tests, Dr. Mason looked disturbed. "Walter, this animal is not normal." He found a microchip hidden under Luther's skin. When traced, it revealed something that seemed impossible. Project Borealis Classified, created in a federal animal biotechnology lab. Luther wasn't just a bull. He was the result of years of secret experiments to develop livestock with adaptive intelligence, basic language capabilities, and emotional sensitivity. But the project had been shut down. Why? Walter asked. Because it worked too well. The bull began recognizing human expressions, anticipating commands, showing signs of emotion, and the military wasn't ready for that. They wanted control, not consciousness. After the revelation, Walter was torn. He accepted Luther as he was, but now carried the burden of knowing he wasn't just any animal. One night, while looking at Luther in silence, Walter knelt in the barn and cried, "What did they do to you, my friend? And what am I supposed to do now?" The next morning, a black car pulled up at the farm entrance. 2 men in suits got out, claiming to represent a federal institution. "You're in possession of a federal research asset. We need to take it back." Walter said nothing. The animal should not have been at the auction. It was misplaced. It's part of a classified government program. There are legal implications. "He's not going anywhere," Walter said firmly. The men looked at each other. One muttered, "Mr. Hayes, this could mean jail time." Walter crossed his arms. "I've lived long enough. You can try." They left. But Walter knew they'd be back. That same week, Walter shared his story with a local journalist friend. Within 48 hours, the video of Luther's story went viral. In 3 days, it had over 20 million views. Celebrities began sharing it. Animal rights groups organized protests. A petition with 2.3 million signatures was sent to Congress. The village of Denton became a symbol of resistance. And Walter, the quiet farmer, became a national hero. 2 years passed. Luther now walked with difficulty. But he still led the herd with watchful eyes. There was a wisdom in his gaze, something hard to describe. Walter built a small memorial on the farm grounds, where he told Luther's story to anyone who wanted to hear. Schools began visiting the property. Children learned about empathy, science, and humanity. When Luther died at age 9, the whole country paused. News outlets, radio, newspapers. Even the Senate held a moment of silence. Walter buried him under the old oak tree on top of the hill. He placed a simple headstone. Luther, the intelligence that taught us the value of compassion. And below, a small engraved quote. The world saw him as a bull. I saw him as a brother. Years later, after Walter had passed, the farm became an educational center called the Luther Institute, focused on teaching ethics, science, and compassion in rural American schools. And at the end of the dirt trail leading to the barn, a wooden sign read, "Here a man saw beyond appearances, and saved the most extraordinary creation ever to walk among us." The following years passed like leaves blown by the autumn wind. Walter's farm, once forgotten and shrouded in silence, was now full of voices, curious footsteps, and enchanted eyes. Children ran through the fields where Luther once walked with strength and wisdom. Entire families came from faraway cities just to see the place where compassion overcame bureaucracy, where an ordinary man stood up to the giants of authority for something many had forgotten: respect for life, even when it cannot speak. Walter, with trembling hands and hair whiter than gray, spent his last days sitting on the porch, looking out at the pasture where Luther's grave lay beneath the old oak. He spoke to the bull as if he were still there, and in a way he was. There was something in the land, in the wind blowing through the trees, that made it feel like Luther had never left. His spirit seemed imprinted in the fields, in the animals' eyes, even in the birdsong. And on one of those afternoons, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with orange and golden tones, Walter felt something different in his chest. A peace he hadn't felt in years. A lightness that made time seem to stand still. With his eyes closed, he smiled. He imagined Luther, strong and majestic, walking toward him. But this time, Walter wasn't alone. He saw his wife, hand in hand with Ethan, the son he had lost. They were all there. And Luther too. Not as an animal, but as something more, a presence made of everything pure, sincere, and eternal. The next morning, they found Walter in the chair on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, his face calm and turned toward the field. In his hands was the notebook where he had written Luther's feats. On the last page, written in shaky handwriting, was a single sentence. If one man can change the world by saving a single animal, imagine what we could do if we all saw with our hearts. Walter's funeral was attended by hundreds of people. Many cried, others brought flowers and memories. But what moved everyone the most was the spontaneous gesture of a little girl, no older than 8. She knelt in front of Luther's headstone and placed a small hand-drawn picture. It showed an old man smiling beside a bull with big, kind eyes, surrounded by children, trees, and sunshine. At the top, written in colored pencil, it read, "Heroes have horns too." And so, amid the sound of the local chapel's bells and the respectful silence of those present, ended a story that would never be forgotten. Not just for the boldness of a farmer or the extraordinary existence of an animal, but for the living reminder that when compassion guides our steps, even the most forgotten among us can make history. Because in the end, Luther wasn't just a biological secret hidden beneath the skin of a sick bull. He was proof that sometimes, love doesn't need words, only someone willing to see beyond the obvious. And that truth, simple and profound, would continue to echo for generations.